Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Amazing Coding. My name is Ahmad, and in today's video we're going to discuss the select elements. And basic definition of what the select element is it's a drop-down menu or a drop-down list that's displayed to the user, and it gives them a list of options. And then based on the option that they select, we're going to do a different functionality. So let's go ahead on W3 Schools just to see what it looks like at a high level. So let's put HTML select, and let's click on the first link. And let's put try it yourself just so they can show us a live example. So this right here, guys, is the drop down or the select. And then you see when you click on it, it gives you a list of options. And then when you click on an option, the value of the select changes, okay? So this is what me and you are gonna build today. And then based on the value that's selected, me and you are going to do a different type of functionality, okay? So let's go ahead and go back to our code. Inside our body, this is where we're going to put our select tags. So let's go ahead and put select, and then immediately you see the opening and closing tags of select. And inside the select tags, we're going to have the option tags, which is going to represent each of the different options that we have. So in our example today, me and you are going to make a drop-down list or a drop-down menu or a select of different colors. And then based on the color they select, me and you are going to do something with our JavaScript to change the background color of the page to a different color. So let's go ahead and put blue, and let's put another option with red, and let's give another option of green, right? And let's just save our code and view it just to see what it looks like. So we have this little drop down or select that has different options. You have red, you have blue, you have green. And when you click on a certain option, the value of the select is going to change, right? So now let's go back to our select and let's identify what these properties are and how we can read it. So the select tags, and that's the main tag, has two properties in it. And we don't need either of these, right? They're not essential or mandatory, right? But we do want the ID property because we want to reference the value later on from this element from our JavaScript. And we did that before using ID. So let's give this an ID of color select, right? And you can name it whatever you want if you don't want to name it color select. But the ID of the select is now color select. Inside the select, I have different options. And in between the opening tag of option and the closing tag of option is what I want to be displayed to the user for the option. So in this case, when I put blue here, blue is going to show to the user. But then you see we have the value property, right? And the value is whatever I want it to be. So in this case, I don't want the value to be blue, even though I could if I wanted to, but I just want to show you guys what the value is supposed to be and how it can be different from what you display to the user. So in this case, we want to display to the user blue, but our value, we want to be something else. And in today's example, me and you are going to use the hex code of the color. So the hex, for those who are not familiar, is literally just a different way for the computer to recognize a color. So you see, for example, blue, the hex code is 000FF. And to the computer, 000FF means blue. So we're going to make the value of that the hex code of blue. Now we're going to go and do that for the rest. We're going to find out the hex code for red. And then we're also going to find the hex code for green. Okay. So now what our code is going to do is that based on the color they select, the value, which is the hex, is going to change. So now the value of the select is the value of blue, which happens to be 00FF. And when I change it to red, now it's going to be the value of the option red, which is FF00. And you guys should get the idea. Now I want to say in my JavaScript function to get the value of the select. So let's go ahead and create a function. And we're going to name this color change. And then now we want to read the value from the select, something we did many times before. So now I'm going to say document.getElementById, and the ID of the select is color select. And then I want to read the value from that. So now reading our code, we're saying, hey, when someone comes inside of this function, I want you to get the value from the element that has the ID color select, which happens to be this select or this drop down. And we said the value of the select or the drop down is whatever option is selected. So if red is selected, that means the value of the select is the value of red, which is the hex code of red. Okay, try to keep up. Now we're gonna say, based on the value, I want the background color to be that color, right? So we need a way to A, trigger this JavaScript function to be called, and B, for us to change the color of the body, right? The full page is the body, when the option is selected. So the first thing we need is a trigger, right? What we used in the past was the button and then use the on-click trigger that said when someone clicks on the button, you go to the JavaScript function. Me and you are not going to use on-click in this case because there are so many triggers and so many different ways we can call JavaScript. The way we're going to call JavaScript today is using the onChange trigger, which basically says anytime the value changes, that's when I want you to trigger JavaScript. So I'm saying when the value of the select changes, go to the color change function. And again, the value changes every time you select a different option in the dropdown. Okay, so now we're going to this function. Now we said we want to change the background color of the body when this function is called. So a way we can do that first is to reference our body, right? And the way we can do that, the same way we did with select, is by giving the body an ID. So we're going to call this main body. And then in our code, we're going to get this elements. Document.getElementById, by ID. And I'm going to get the ID main body. And that's going to get the body. Now, what do I want to change with the body? Not the value, but I want to change the style property. And what of the style property do I want to change? The background color. So I'm going to put background color. And then what do I want to assign the background color? We want to assign it the value from the dropdown. So let's save and let's see what it does first, and then I can come back and explain it to everyone what's happening. So let's save. Let's go back to our code. Now we said when I change the value of the dropdown, that's when it's going to trigger my function to be called and it's going to do some certain functionality. So let's go ahead and change the value now of the dropdown to red. And that's going to trigger our JavaScript to run and is going to make the functionality that me and you just coded apparent. So let's go ahead and click red, and we see now the background color is red. Now let's click green and we see the background color is green. And we click on blue and we see the background color is blue, right? Pretty cool. So let's go back to the code, explain everything that's happening once again, recap everything so that we can understand all the moving pieces and how everything is working. So starting with the select tags, right? That's what's populating, or that's the main tags to create your drop-down menu or your drop-down list. Inside the select, we have different options, right? We have blue, we have red, we have green, and you see that being displayed to the user. And then depending on which option is selected, the value of the select is going to be different. So if I click on the blue option, the value of the select is going to be the value of blue, which is 00FF, and so on and so forth for each one of the options. Then I have the onChange event trigger on my select, which basically says anytime the value of this select changes, trigger JavaScript. In other words, anytime someone selects a different option, trigger JavaScript, right? So now we're going to go to our JavaScript function and read what it says. It says go and get the elements by the ID of main body, which is our body tags, right? Which is the entire HTML page, right? And it's saying get the style property, and within the style property, get the background color property, right? And we're going to assign a new value to this property because initially it was white, right? It was blank, it was nothing. And then the new value that we're going to assign to the background color is the value of color select. Color select is our select, and the value of the select is whatever option was selected, right? So that is all in a nutshell, everything we did in today's class, which is adding the select HTML tags and calling the JavaScript function to change the background color display to the user. And that's the basic gist of what a select is. If you didn't understand and it wasn't really clear, rewatch this video and hopefully it will become a little more concrete. Thank you guys for watching again. Make sure to subscribe and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.